The Pentagon has indicated to Al Jazeera that a video showing a deadly U.S. military helicopter attack on a group of men in Baghdad is likely to be authentic. It shows a U.S. military helicopter firing repeatedly on the men, some of whom were apparently unarmed civilians in Baghdad 3 years ago. 11 people were killed, including a photojournalist with the Reuters news agency and his driver. 2 children were injured in the attack. Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane has more, and you may find some of the footage in this report extremely disturbing.
For more than 2.5 years, the wire service Reuters has been trying to find out what happened to their 2 staff members on this street in a suburb of Baghdad nearly 3 years ago. WikiLeaks.org says this is what happened. The subtitles and captions have been added by WikiLeaks.
Yep, he's got a weapon too. Hotel 26, Crazy Horse 18, have 5 to 6 individuals with AK-47s. We got RPG. All right, we got guys.
The website specializes in releasing classified information. They say they got this U.S. helicopter gunship video from what they call military whistleblowers. The voices are presumably the pilots talking to each other and their commanders.
Light them all up. Come on, fire. Hey, Roger. Keep shooting. God damn it, Kyle. All right. I hit him by head. Oh, yeah, look at those dead bastards. Nice.
Then, an unidentified vehicle arrives and appears to try and help the wounded man.
Come on, let us shoot. 1-8, okay. Clear. Come on. Oh, yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
In this video, I think you see the corruption of pilots and the military by war itself, in particular by the modern nature of aerial warfare. So you see these young pilots acting like they're playing video games, only the high scores they are getting are with real human lives.
Up until now, all we've seen is the aftermath of what happened, along with the military's claim that troops followed the rules of engagement, and it was the enemy that died in the square.
Got a bunch of bodies laying there.
Military experts point out this part of the video and say it is clear to them that this man is carrying an RPG, those next to him AK-47s, saying that would be enough for the pilots to feel confident opening fire, particularly because you hear them say they are being shot at themselves.
Yeah, we got a guy shooting. Now he's behind the building.
But their serious tone doesn't last long.
This guy just drove over a body. Yeah.
When U.S. ground forces arrive in the area, they find 2 wounded children and call for help.
Hey, I need to get the brass to drop ramps. I got a wounded girl. We need to take her up the mile.
The response on the tape.
Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle. That's right.
The Department of Defense says it has no reason to doubt the authenticity of the tape, and it has investigated the incident and found their own justified in opening fire. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Ivan Eland is a defense analyst who spent 15 years advising members of the U.S. Congress on military and national security policy. Earlier, he told me that anyone who appeared to be helping hostile targets in a war zone can technically be considered a fair target. In this case, though, he added, there were some clear warning signs that could have been picked up on.
There should have been some concern that this wasn't a hostile group, because what's really interesting about the thing is they saw this helicopter going around and around and around, obviously, and they didn't seem to be fearful of it. Insurgents would have either fled or used the rocket-propelled grenade launcher right off the bat. So,
which, of course, wasn't an RPG.
Right. So, and of course, the feedback to the pilots should have been, well, these people aren't really taking evasive action or trying to shoot us when they see us circling. So,
but journalists, by their presence, don't become fair game, do they? If they're amongst suspected insurgents, or do they? Or is that part of the reason?
Well, they do if they're not trying to kill the journalists. I don't think anybody tried to purposely kill anybody here, but I think the real problem is in this type of warfare, it's not like a conventional battle. You're not really sure who's in the insurgency and who's not. So the real problem is identifying the players and what they're doing in the war. And so this happens more in counterinsurgency warfare than it does in regular warfare.
Now that we have the footage, what are we to make of actually the response, which it's a common response we get actually whenever there are accusations of civilian casualties. It's usually a denial or a blanket denial until more evidence sort of is produced and so forth. Do you think there's enough transparency about the sort of operations that are going on? Is there enough accountability?
No, I don't think there is. Afghanistan last week, that the military's usual response is to deny that anybody was other than insurgents were killed, and that's what they did here. And they also told an outright lie that they didn't know what happened, how the children were wounded, and they certainly did because they helped evacuate them after they discovered them. So there was a little bit of shady statements going on here in the beginning. They weren't telling how the insurgents got, or the alleged insurgents were shot. So I think this is a common occurrence. They say, oh no, these were all insurgents, and then when evidence comes along, either photographic like this or word of mouth, then they start backing off from that. And I think this allows them to do two things. Number one, if no other evidence shows up, it allows them to just say, well, they were insurgents, blah, blah, blah. But if something does show up, it allows them to attenuate the press coverage, because the initial press coverage is focused on like 12 people were killed or 10 people or how many ever killed. So gradually, I think they have an incentive to do that, unfortunately. And there's a defense mechanism when you're in the military. You're convinced that what you're doing is correct. I mean, even in conventional warfare, you have pilots reporting many more kills than they get because they're just certain that that they got more than they did. So the human psyche, when you're in combat in a tense situation, you don't see things quite as clearly as you would if you're a disinterested observer.